Hello and welcome to another weekly update, and this one brought to you by some sunny weather. It's really nice. If you didn't catch last week's one, I'm currently at the Microsoft campus in Redmond for the MVP Summit. The MVP Summit was this week, it's just come to an end. It's been a really good week. Can't really kind of talk too much about it, but just know that it's been a really good week of catching up with people and meeting lots of interesting people as well. And the weather has been unseasonably amazing for Seattle. Anyone who goes to Seattle regularly will know that it's not normally quite like this, especially not in March. So feel very lucky. Yes, and it's been a busy week as well. So this was also the week for Enterprise Connect, big unified communications conference. Not really dev focused, if I'm honest. It's kind of higher level, lots of sales and marketing kind of stuff, big announcement things. But it's still good to kind of keep an eye on what's going on, keep track on what's going on, and it's a feel good event as well, especially this year because Microsoft Teams won Enterprise Connect Best in Show award again, which is excellent, second year in a row, which is kind of very good. Congrats to all the team there, and also there were some really good announcements, that kind of make you feel proud and pleased to be on that team's bandwagon. So some of the stuff around like background imaging and some of the overlay whiteboard stuff, if you haven't seen it, I absolutely encourage you to go and watch the keynote. It's only half an hour long, and it's a real good demo fest of new features coming into Teams. So very exciting. There's an accompanying blog post as well, which I shall link to, calling out some stats as well. 500,000 plus organizations now using Teams, 91% of the Fortune 100 using Teams, lots and lots of language support as well, and some, like I say, the live captions as well, real-time transcription of live captions, so excellent. So real focus on accessibility as well, and inclusion, which is really good. Definitely there's kind of there's loads of things in this blog post that were announced, so I don't really want to go through them all, but yeah, go and have a look at the blog post, and if you can get to it, watch the keynote as well. I think there's a supercut of the keynote in the blog post as well, so you can kind of look out for that as well. Secondly is an interesting blog post I saw in the tech communities, which I wanted to link to, and it's around low code and no code, which are kind of two phrases that are kind of coming into the public consciousness, if you like, or coming into my consciousness anyway. They might have been very much in the public consciousness and I've just become aware of them. That's entirely possible. For building solutions using Teams, SharePoint and Flow. So what this is really tying together different Microsoft services that you probably already have. So things like Teams, SharePoint, Flow, Power Apps, Power BI, all these services, tying them together, but that doesn't necessarily mean writing lots of code. So there's lots of what are called these no-code, low-code scenarios where you can tie things together using something like Flow to get your work done, and literally kind of tying these things together. And the great thing is you don't need to be super experienced in the development space to make this work. You can you can be a kind of power user, business user, business expert, and just be able to create these routines, create these workflows, just to kind of get stuff done. That's kind of different from kind of code from scratch scenarios, which tend to be more involved, more bespoke, more complex, and there's definitely still a place for those, but it's worth just knowing what's available to kind of people out of the box, because it might be that somebody doesn't want a kind of very complicated, long process to kind of get stuff done. Like they don't want a big life cycle to write a new piece of software, when actually what they could have is just kind of something built out of Flow, which takes less time and is more maintainable as well. And then finally, I wanted to call out an interview I did I did it a couple of weeks ago, but got round to posting it this week, with someone I met at a previous conference. So one of the really nice things actually about doing conferences locally, so the Nordev conference I did a couple of weeks ago, one of the really nice things about doing that is that you get to meet experts in your local area, and it's very easy to kind of miss those people, funnily enough. You know, you kind of connect with all the people around the world that are kind of in your space, but then you don't tend to connect with people locally that may not be in your area of expertise, but they're kind of still super interesting people doing amazing things. And they happen to live on your doorstep. So local conferences are really good places to kind of meet up with those people. So had the pleasure of bumping into someone called Sainty at the Nordev conference, and he's doing a lot of stuff with Blazor, Blazor.net. So what is Blazor? Well, I hear you ask, and what is it? Well, if I tell you it is open source and it is part of the .NET open source platform, then that might pique your interest. And Chris has been working on it really since the very beginning, and he's kind of something of an expert in the area. He blogs about it. He kind of maintains the repo as well and does a bunch of interesting things around it. So I sat down with him in Norwich, which is where we're both from, and recorded a bit of a video interview, just kind of figuring out really what Blazor is and where he fits in and where it fits into the .NET platform, and all that whole experience. So if that sounds interesting, it's nothing to do with Teams, it's to do with development, but it's just not Teams development. But actually, if you're doing anything front end, if you're doing anything web-based, if you're doing anything with spas, then you probably want to be aware of this stuff. So I'm bringing it to your attention. If that sounds like interesting stuff, then I encourage you to go and watch the video, and kind of look out for Chris on Twitter and keep up with him as well that way. Interesting talking to him about as well, kind of digging in, because he's been working directly with a team out of Microsoft that are contributing on this open source software. And he said something which I thought was really cool. He said it's been fantastic, the interaction with the team. It's so cool to actually directly interact with the team that built the project. It's a great quote. And it's very kind of, it's this new kind of collaborative world where Microsoft are building solutions in the open, they're building them on GitHub, they're asking for community contributions, and they're really engaging with the community. It's not just lip service stuff. They are genuinely working with people and working kind of in the open as well, and forging these relationships with the community, which is all excellent stuff to see. Alright, well, I better stop talking because unfortunately this is my last day here, so I need to fly later on today, so I ought to go and sort all that out. I think I'd rather just sit in the sun, actually. It's lovely. Anyway, have a good weekend, and I will speak to you again next time.